1059.com.
Hoo boy. Here we go. Hour one of the show on this Reaction Monday, off and running with you. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome in. Welcome in. Get on in here today on this Reaction Monday. What are we reacting to? Well, I mean, a full weekend, another weekend of college football. Who's up, who's down. Some teams won games and ain't satisfied. Other teams lost games and want to fire the coach. If you're a Miami Hurricanes fan, bless your heart. How does that happen? All that kind of stuff. And listen. Okay, the Saints are pretty good with a healthy Derek Carr. Week to week they got a chance. The Cowboys are good against everybody but the 49ers and the Eagles, who just happen to be the two best teams in the NFL. And boy, did they sure look like it last night. The 49ers absolutely chewed up and spit out Dallas, embarrassed them from the word go. More on that. Big shutout win for the Saints. And look, the Saints don't have to apologize for winning a game. But the question really is, how bad are the Patriots? All of that and more. We can get into it. Doesn't matter. Whatever order you want to get into it today, I'm all for it. So, hey to you. Thanks for tuning in. However, wherever. Feel free to text or call or hit me up on the Murray West live thread. If you're watching the live stream, it is live. I know you don't see me, but I'm having one of those headache days, so we get the lights off in here. So thanks for tuning in. We're going to fight through this. And, so I'm here. I can see your comments. Like Sven was the first to comment on the Murray West live thread. He's watching the show on YouTube. And he says, Hail State, everyone. To be honest, I'm shell-shocked how horrible our defense looks. Talking about State. Says that was not Georgia or LSU. That was, he said Western Kentucky. What he meant was Western Michigan, who scored at will on us. Yeah, so we'll start it right there, Sven. Does State still have, offensive issues, or is it really more so defense? And the thing about it is, going forward, we don't know because Will Rogers left the game with apparent non-throwing shoulder injury, but it's like, what is that injury? If it is, and I don't know. I don't have the details on what his injury is. But it leaves you to wonder, like when I saw it, I thought, okay, if it's that AC joint, which is where your collarbone goes over there and meets the top of your shoulder joint, it's connected with cartilage. Well, if that's the separation, non-throwing shoulder, you probably play through that. Maybe, especially if you don't play for 2 weeks. If it's shoulder separation, maybe longer. If it's broken collarbone, something like that, longer. And you just don't know. And so, the thing about it is, people go, well, so-and-so posted this, or I saw this on Twitter. Well, I'd be careful about believing all that stuff. And I will say, too, in regards to a potential injury for your quarterback like Will Rogers, when this team has a dynamic of he's a different style of quarterback than the other guy playing. Well, then I don't know that you can keep that stuff completely under wraps for 2 weeks because State's got an open date this week before you go to Arkansas. So I don't know if you can completely keep it under wraps, but if you could, if it were me, I would. If I had a way to completely keep it hidden for 2 solid weeks before we go play, I would do it. I would. Because there's no rules about disclosing injuries, and since the offense with Will is much different than the offense with Mike Wright, if you could somehow keep that close to the vest for 2 weeks before you go to Arkansas and make them, next week anyway, prepare for what they don't like, who we're going to play, that would maybe be to your advantage, possibly, potentially, and you'd take that advantage if you could. Now, they may choose not to, I don't know, but that's what I would be looking at for sure. You can text the show also on the Country Pleasin' text line. I hope you will. Country Pleasin' sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. It is the best sausage, hands down, in my opinion. Got my hand up. beside that, in my opinion. Jalapeno and cheddar. Had some for breakfast this morning. Try it. It's one of my favorite flavors. You can text the show at this number, 885-3776. 601 number, 885-3776. PT for MSU, the first to text today, says, the Saints are not good, but they look like the 85 Bears yesterday against the Pats. And yes, he says, State's defense is still not good. Yeah, I know. And, listen, I guess if you're going to talk about Mississippi State football coming out of this Western Michigan game, you do have to start with defense because, it was like just enough to win a game against a team that you shouldn't have needed just enough, right? That's how it all felt. Final score is 41-28. Several times in the game, it's cut closer than you wanted it to. All that kind of stuff. If you watch the game, you know what I'm talking about. But 41-28, the final. There were some turnovers in there, right? I guess, it was a tie. They had one. State had one. But you create one late. There were a couple of instances in the game in this stretch of where State's defense could not stop their pass game, where the State still stepped up and made a play or two when they had to have it. There were two different times I remember in the game where even though Western Michigan with the third-string quarterback had been just going up and down the field, State found itself in a couple of game situations where they just had to do something. They had no choice but to make a play right there, and they made one. Buki Watson made it twice, two different times on the had-to-make plays. And then one of those was in on that last play where he gets a pressure off the edge, which you had not gotten pressure. He finally gets one, and it forces a high throw that it's in the vicinity of a receiver, but tip drill, and Sean Preston comes down with it. But those would be really the only positives in the game because, Western Michigan without a starting running back, maybe one other receiver, something like that, but also without their starting quarterback. And I don't know how good that kid is. I don't have any clue. But they play another kid that started the game, Salopak. He goes 6 for 10, okay? Not a lot of yards. They were struggling while he was in the game. Well, they bring the other kid in, the third-string guy, Wolf, who's a tall right-hander, 6'5", 235, transferred there from Old Dominion. And the situation in the game that he came in the first half dictated that they needed to go fast, run it like a 2-minute drill. I was impressed with how together they were in their 2-minute drill. They were very well coached in terms of getting the play call, getting lined up, run it again. I mean, they were really good at that. But he goes in, and they could not, for a large portion of the game, late second quarter, third quarter, parts of the fourth quarter, they could not force incomplete throws. They just could not force an incomplete. And he finished the game at 77%. 262 yards, 77%, 3 touchdowns. The one interception he did throw was on that last play there. Well, here's what jumped out at me. And again, the edge has been taken off this particular stat just because time has passed. There's water under the bridge. It's a 41-28 win. You're moving on. You got other concerns, right? Who's hurt and that sort of thing. But listen, this kid went on a stretch of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 straight completions. Okay? He went on a stretch of 13 straight completions. Before that last throw of the game where they were in a little bit of desperation mode and you got a pressure. It's really the first time he tried to force it in there. Not only 13 straight completions, okay, but had a stretch where he went 20 of 22 during a large portion of the game. Third quarter, fourth quarter. Third quarter and fourth quarter, he's on a stretch where he completed 20 of 22 throws during that stretch. And, of course, like I said, he finished the game 27 of 35, 77%. So at the end of the game, I was looking at it. And I think I said this to to Neil during one of the commercial breaks at the end. I said, what this means is this. Okay, here's the number. To talk about how State has struggled defensively here in September and October. The last 4 quarterbacks you have faced, these are their completion percentages. 88%, 90%, 83%, and now 77% for a third-string guy. Y'all, I'm just going to tell you, and I almost feel guilty for going negative after you win a game. You don't have to apologize for finding some way to win any game, okay? They're 3-3, move on. But listen, what I'm telling you is, I don't think I have ever in my life seen a 4-game stretch for an SEC defense allowing those kinds of completion percentages in games. I don't think it has ever happened. Now soak that statement in for just a second. Listen, I don't think it's ever happened. I know it's a different era than the 60s. Nobody was keeping these kind of stats in the 60s. You know, when Spurrier was throwing it around in the late 80s, it's the first time anybody came in the SEC to do that. I get it. But when I say ever, so I'm talking about my life. Since I've been keeping up with football, and I'm late 40s, y'all. Okay, and since I've been following SEC football since I was in the 8th grade, the first year I ever played football. That's a long time. I have never seen a Southeastern Conference defense give up that rate of completions to opposing quarterbacks game after game after game. I've never seen it before. As a matter of fact, I would be willing to bet without looking it up, it's never happened before. Jaden Daniels of LSU went 88%, started the game 18 for 18, set an LSU single-game completion percentage record. The next game, Spencer Rattler went 90% for South Carolina. Daniels went 13 for 13 to start his day. This kid, Rattler, who went 90%, goes 18 for 18 to start the game. Jalen Milroe, Alabama, came in there. Went 8 for his first 8 throws, finishes the game 10 for, I think, 13, or 10 for 12, 10 for 13, 83%. I'm willing to bet you, if I were a betting man, and it's just strictly, trying to take the best odds, I would bet a few dollars that Jalen Milroe will never have another game in his college career near 83% completions in a game. And then this week against Western Michigan, not the starting quarterback, not the backup quarterback who started the game. The kid who was third string, who had 7 pass attempts all year long, goes in there and has a stretch in the third and fourth quarters now, going 20 for 22, finishes the game 27-35 for 77%. What I'm telling you is, I don't know. It's hard to identify it because I've never seen it before. That's just the truth. All right. More texts on the Country Pleasing text line. Then I'll come over to your comments here on the live thread. Jason in Flagstaff says, he's out in Arizona. He says, I asked Bart this during the postgame show, but I didn't hear the answer. Do you have any idea how many regular guys were out and or how many younger guys were rotated in? Y'all mentioned it several times on the broadcast. Well, yeah, so, DeMonte Russell, he played and started the game, but I don't know how close to 100% he is. Lots of rotation there. Of course, Pickering and Crumity are your 2 sort of mainstays on the front right now. But State rotated in a bunch of other guys. Deontay Anderson and Dontarie Russell seem to be the other 2 that were rotated the most coming off the edge. And then Eric, I'm drawing a blank. Is it Young? Yeah, the kid that they signed out of JUCO. That he wears number 92. And he came in and spelled him some. Taylor, not Young, Eric Taylor. He came in and played some plays. He actually was credited with 1 quarterback hurry in the game. And, State was credited with 7 quarterback hurries. But, Offensively, State did a lot of really good things. And certainly early in the game, they built up the 10-0 lead, just bang, bang, really easily, made it look easy. And then they gave an entire series to Mike Wright. Well, and he moved the ball, right? They did some good things. First time this year he's gotten a whole series, third series of the game, takes it down the field and just had an unfinished drive. They did not finish with any points, and it seemed to sort of interrupt the early momentum of the game that you had. So, offensively, you score 41, you get a chance. But I will tell you this. Here's where things are after watching that defense. And, maybe getting a guy like Dinkins healthy to contribute on the front, maybe it makes a difference, that big of a difference. But, I don't see it that way. With what State has coming up, SEC teams coming up, after the open date, you're going to have back-to-back road games. A week off is going to help with some of the bumps and bruises and all that kind of stuff. But State's looking at a deal where they're going to have to score 40-plus points a game to have a chance to win enough games to get bowl eligible, period. End of story. I don't know that you can see the first half of a season and have a defense doing what State's doing, or not doing for that matter, defensively, and then just flip a switch during the midseason open date and be a different bunch in the second half. Can they be better? Yeah. But they have so far to go. And, you're left to wonder. I just don't know that maybe we didn't appreciate enough, the impact of losing a defensive tackle like Cam Young to the draft, who's playing for Seattle now. A defensive end pressure guy like Randy Charlton. An athlete off the edge at linebacker like Wheat. And, of course, the number one cover corner out there in Forbes, losing those guys. And you also lost two veterans at safety, right, in Duncan and Green. So maybe we just didn't – maybe I shouldn't say we. Maybe I didn't appreciate, the impact of losing all those players, because it's pretty obvious to me that you have a defensive front seven who is and can do a pretty good job against the run. They're kind of built for that, but just can't get off blocks and make individual plays often enough, pressuring quarterbacks. Cannot force opposing quarterbacks into mistakes. Just can't do it. And when you can't do it up front, you can't cover on the back end. There's a lot of cushion. There's you don't have the complementary thing going of pressures and then cover sacks. And so you're getting beat some in man, but also in zone. There just seems, when you're running zone coverage stuff, there seems to be some hesitation of I don't know, the anticipation of routes being thrown in certain zones on the field is not there. It's like you have too many guys in zone coverage play after play who need to see the ball thrown before they know where to break and who to break on. And so there's a whole lot of they catch it, we run and tackle. They catch it, we run and tackle. They catch it, we run and tackle. There's a whole lot of that and very few pass breakups. And you played a Western Michigan team that threw the ball, what was it again? They threw the ball 45 times in a game, and we're in SEC defense with 3 pass breakups the whole game. That's just not enough. They had as many pass breakups as we did in the game. And, too, I will say this too. So, well, let me get back to your comments. I got plenty of time for my opinion. Let me get back to some of yours. Beer Slayer texts the show and says, Matt, do you think Arnett can take over the defense in a way that he can not announce that he is taking over the defense? Well, I guess it's possible, but it's my impression that he's very involved with the defense. Rebel Rex texts the show and says, okay, Matt, now can all of these Cowboys fans hush about how great their defense is and Dak is a running check down quarterback? He plays bad on the road and he never wins any big games. Rebel Rex says that whole team just got blown off the field. Just my thoughts. Rex, they got dominated. Did you see those first quarter numbers? Now, I know it's kind of like, I don't know. You're like, what's the point of looking at first quarter numbers? We look at 4 quarter numbers and they dominate. But look at the first quarter in that game last night. In the first quarter, The 49ers ran 22 plays. Dallas ran 7. The 49ers had 8 first downs. Dallas had none. And in the first quarter, 49ers had 98 yards. Dallas had 8. Get this. Look at it this way. In the first quarter, San Francisco had more first downs than Dallas had total plays. In the first quarter, 49ers had 8 first downs. Dallas ran 7 plays. It's just from the word go, one team was so much better than the other. And here's the thing about it, Rex. Dallas, from a talent and everything else perspective, they really are not that bad. That's what's so bad about it. Is here lately when they step on the field with the 49ers, they are whipped physically. They are run circles around. The 49ers always show up, and the Cowboys never do. And that's more of an internal guts thing than anything else. Jonathan texts the show, Country Pleasing text line. He says, "Hey, Matt Wyatt, let me share my Saturday with you. Woke up to a beautiful, cool Saturday morning, started working around the yard about 8:30. Right at 9, I put the headphones in, listened to the pregame, brother. I didn't turn them off until Neil wrapped up postgame interview with Coach. He says, not sure I've ever listened to you guys all the way through. Was great to be outdoors and listen to my fellow Bulldog folks." Well, I am glad you enjoyed it because, look, Saturday, kind of like the last 2 days, has just been, it was gorgeous. Saturday was a perfect fall day. And glad you were able to enjoy it outside. It's kind of where you should have been. All right, comments on the Murray West live thread, text else coming up right after this. I'm Matt, just getting started on this Monday. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal, the taste brand, the cereal that's All-Bran. A breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new transparent fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at no extra charge from Mazda. You get a bed liner, mud guards.
All right, back with you. I'm Matt. In the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the state of Mississippi. On the Murray West live thread, Steve checking in on Facebook says, Dothan in here. He's in Dothan, Alabama. Steve, thanks for saying hello. Joseph comments on Facebook, says, Saturday was a straight-up embarrassment. Hardly no crowd. Defense terrible. Secondary horrible. Western Michigan put up over 500 yards against us. Absolutely no excuse. Well, the total for Western Michigan was 413 yards of total offense. But, and you did I don't know. I look, and it's still, you go. They've run the ball pretty well. The running back was pretty good. 116 yards rushing for them as a team. And their starter had 60 on 18 carries. That's 3.3 per carry. But, yeah, State defensively didn't have a great day for sure. Will comments on YouTube on the Murray West live thread, says, well, all those people that wanted them to put Mike Wright in are going to get their wish. Yeah, that is if Will is going to have to miss time. We'll see. I hadn't seen anything confirmed one way or the other. I haven't really heard anything. And like I said, if I were them, I'd be trying to hold it close to the vest also, if I could. I certainly would. Buddy says on Facebook, Matt, my thoughts are State should move Coach Brock up to the press box, make his calls from there. He says, I believe that helps him see the defensive player, was it, when they're in coverage. Just my thoughts. What say you? Well, yeah, I don't know. It's a little different on defense. Offense, pretty much everybody has offensive coaches in the booth. You're trying to look at depth of coverage and their alignment. You can see it better up there. And it removes you from the emotion. And I think offensively you need to be removed from the emotion a little better. But defensively, I don't know. There are a couple different schools of thought on that. And, I can understand from a communication standpoint, too, and it's what you've done. He's never been a coordinator before, buddy. And so, Matt, if he coaches from the booth, I would imagine it'd probably be the first time he's ever done it. And so he's just going what he knows. Now, whether or not I would say that sometimes you got to look at it and go, well, look, we got to change something. So we just got to change some stuff because doing what we're doing ain't working. And that's kind of where it is right now. Over here on the Country Pleasing text line, Jason in Flagstaff said, what were DeLaura's numbers after that awful first quarter where the Cowbells got him? Talking about Jaden DeLaura from Arizona. He was at 70% in the game. DeLaura completed 70% of his throws. So think of it this way. State is 3-3 this year, and 5 of the 6 quarterbacks you faced have completed 70 or better percentage of their throws. 5 straight games now with a quarterback completing 70% or better. So again, in order, if you went back to DeLaura, 70%, 88%, 90%, 83%, 77%. So it went up to 90. Maybe it's coming back down. This kid he went 77%. So yeah, but it's hard to watch it. A stretch of, it's just, there's not enough pressure to force errant throws, and there's not enough coverage to get breakups. And it's just, they catch you tackle over and over and over and over. And it's hard to watch it. Now you only give up 28 points in the game, and a good bit of that in the second half, but that's after they made the quarterback change. See, it was 17-7, 10-point game at half, because the State seemed to have all the momentum with Will Rogers in there at quarterback. They made the change, gave Mike Wright a whole series. He moved the ball. They just didn't score. Down there at the end, they missed the field goal. And it took the edge off their momentum offensively. They make a quarterback change and get in a hurry up with that big third stringer, and here they go down the field. State could not force incompletes, wore them out. You go in the locker room, you're up 10. And it was like, again, you couldn't get off the field. And so when you look at the drives in the game, the way it was coming together for them, they scored that first touchdown there on a 3-minute drive, took 14 plays, 75 yards, late first half. Second half, they had 6 possessions and scored touchdowns on 3 of them. At their first possession of the second half, they went 75 yards in 10 plays, 3:21 on the clock. After that, another 75-yard drive, took 3:21 exactly off the clock. So the longest drive, State did not have any long offensive drives that took a lot of time off the clock. And so there's also an element of a thin defense. They're in hurry up. You're not getting to substitute as much, and you just wore down. Everybody wore down. So, there we are. There's some more of that. Quint texts the show, says, I watched the State game and I saw that the defensive backs couldn't get closer than 3 steps from a receiver. There was always some separation, wasn't it? Yeah. So man or zone, you got to do a better job somehow. Somebody texted the show, said last night was bad. The 49ers make everyone look bad. The Cowboys split with the Eagles last year and won 12 games. I swear the Cowboys are just held to a different standard. Saints, for example, are held up as this great franchise but haven't won a thing. Well, I would say this, maybe somebody is holding up the Saints as a great franchise, but I'm not. Nobody around here is. I don't hear that. We just like them. That's the thing about it. We just like them. Okay, and there's differences, even though they have these parity rules and structures in the NFL, like the draft and everything else, and the salary cap. Still, you and I both agree there's a humongous difference between organizations like the Saints versus the Cowboys. There's a huge difference. And so maybe that's one reason, but the Cowboys just always get a lot of interest and a lot of talk. That's why they feel like they're held to a different standard. And the thing about it is, they played really, really poorly last night. Just didn't really show up. Now, they don't have as good a team as the 49ers. The 49ers have a better offensive coach. The 49ers have a 3-headed monster on offense, and I'm not even talking about their quarterback, who he's really good, but look what he's got around him. A great offensive line, first of all, super physical, great plan, great coach. But the 3-headed monster of McCaffrey, Kittle, and Deebo Samuel. And you could even go 4 and 5 guys when you start talking about some of their others that I don't know that anybody in the league, when you go to skill players that aren't quarterbacks, that have a 3-headed monster that are any bigger or better than that 3-headed monster. Really, McCaffrey, Kittle, Deebo. Who else has that? I asked that question last night on Twitter, and some people mentioned, if a couple different squads, like somebody mentioned the Dolphins, A-Chain, Hill, and who was the other? Waddle. But the deal is none of those are a tight end. That's the thing that the 49ers have. And that's one of the reasons the Chiefs have been so good, is that Kelsey gives them this weapon that is so rare as compared to other tight ends around the league. Look at Kittle last night compared to Dallas tight ends. It's no comparison. Look at the 49ers offensive line compared to the Dallas's offensive line last night. It's no comparison. Melissa in Starkville texts the show and says, Matt and I are enjoying some country pleasing green onion and pepper jack for lunch. Good stuff. Well, good to hear from you. And yes, it is good stuff. Really good stuff. That pepper jack and green onion smells good. It'll have the neighbors sticking their head out the window going, what is that? Tim texts the show, says Gardner will be the quarterback in Jacksonville the next game. Get your popcorn. Yep. So I saw where Anthony Richardson got hurt again yesterday. And again, Minshew goes in, completes a bunch of passes, leads them to a win. He is forevermore their safety blanket, isn't he? Denzel always seems to like to send us a stat of the day. He says, college football stat of the day. Notre Dame hasn't won back-to-back games versus top 25 teams on the road since 2005, when Brady Quinn was the quarterback for Notre Dame. Wow. MSU 1980 says, Matt, I also listened on the radio to the game because I had to work. Or he had work to do and the weather was perfect. He says, I knew our defense was bad, but those completion percentages are unacceptable. I mean, they really are. I know it's just one stat of many. You know, one stat never gives you the whole story, but it is a stat that I think pinpoints what's the issue right now. Like, State cannot get pressure to force quarterbacks into bad throws enough. And the coverage, there's just always room to stick it in there. And these guys are just eating the pass coverage, the pass defense up when State's on the field. So, again, it's kind of like we said after the game. They certainly are a work in progress at State. And now you got injuries to deal with, too, that are piling up on you. But it's hard to, it's just kind of, it's mind-boggling. 5 straight opposing quarterbacks that are at 70% or better. Some of them 80 and 90%. It's just, it's unheard of. I've never seen it before. All right. Just getting started, rolling along. Lots of comments, lots of texts to get to on this Reaction Monday. Get them in. You can call me as well. Phone lines are open to you. So stick around.
Have you ever wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is. Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product. Even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
A Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yes, And
the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh.
Hamburger Helper Lasagna.
For your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto. But not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger Helper Lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with authentic Italian taste. Curly Italian noodles, rich tomato sauce, and a better blend of spices.
Hamburger Helper. Lasagna.
Helper, Hamburger Helper.
Make a great meal.
Back with you, I'm Matt. In the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Thanks for tuning in today on this Reaction Monday. If you're on the live stream, get your comments in there on the Murray West live thread. Go to murraywest.com. It's M-U-R-R-Y. Contract Embroidery Company here in Mississippi, going all the way back to 1996. Custom apparel and more right there. If you need your logo on something anywhere in the state of Mississippi, trust me on this, Murray West. Go to murraywest.com. On the Murray West live thread, Chris on Facebook said, Matt, I truly feel like we look like we're losing even when we're winning. He says players look defeated. It's almost like we look relieved when we make a play more than excited. Yeah, I mean, they're laboring a little bit for sure. No question about it. Sven commented on YouTube. He says MSU plays in the SEC and Western Michigan is projected dead last in the MAC. If our defense is worn out against these guys, then he said, then it's good night. Well, listen, let me just tell you, if something doesn't miraculously change during the open date, and guys, on a team, they have to keep bearing down and do what they're asked to do and try to be better tomorrow than they were today and just get healthy. They got no choice. And they process and move on from things a lot quicker than we do a lot of times. And they have no choice but keep grinding it out, go play in these upcoming games and see if you can't make some plays and make some stuff happen. It's just part of it. And football's fun. That's why they do it. But this offense is going to have to score a lot of points per game if State's going to have a chance to get to that bowl eligibility, period. End of story. You're not, you got back-to-back road games in the SEC. You're going to host a good Kentucky team. You're going to host Ole Miss. You got some games where, I'm just telling you, the way your defense is playing, unless another team has a really bad day offensively and makes a lot of mistakes, we haven't been able to force people into mistakes, then you're going to have to be in that 40-point range to have a shot at it. That's just the way it is. Res Dog texts the show. And let me just back up too before I start reading some more of these. It's like I'm glad State won the game. They're 3-3. They only need 3 more to get to the 6 and get yourself in a bowl and kind of keep some positivity going. Makes it tougher when some teams around you are playing well. You know, you look at places like, I know they lost, but you look at Missouri. You know, you look at Ole Miss. There's some other teams around you that really have it rolling. First-year coach at Auburn. You know, we'll see how all that kind of stuff plays out. State does not have to apologize for winning a game. You know, that's not how this works. But we're looking at it long-term, and even in the win, it was not all positive. The other day, it just wasn't. Res Dog texts the show. He says, maybe we can get Wolf, that Western Michigan quarterback, in the transfer portal next year. Look, man, 6'5", 235, third string on their team. He comes in there just throwing darts and accurate. Everything out of his hand was accurate. And big dude. And running that 2-minute hurry-up offense, he knew what he was doing. Dennis, formerly of Omaha, Texas, show says, good afternoon, Matt. He says, you know, the best part of the Kansas City game this weekend was the fact that there was no cutaway shots of Taylor Swift. You are exactly right. You are exactly right. I'm so glad. And, you know, we had national broadcast too. And thankfully it was the Vikings because the Chiefs didn't play that well. They really didn't. But you get to win. And that's kind of a mark of these transcendent players like Mahomes. It not play well, you know, turn it over a little bit. Doesn't matter. He figures out a way to win. Team figures out a way to win. And I'm just telling you, I think the Chiefs are better defensively than they get credit for. Get your comments in. Murray West live thread. Country Please and text line. I'll give you those numbers. And call me on the Davini phone, 995-1059. Jonathan says, me, how can State be so bad on defense? Listen, then he says, listens to you. Realizes for the 17th time we have a coach with zero coaching experience and a defensive coordinator with zero defensive coordinating experience. He says, your thoughts on change mean very little. My thoughts mean even less. He says, what do you think first-year athletics director Zach Selman is thinking halfway through the season? Yeah, look, that's a great question. You know, what is he thinking halfway through the season? I mean, I don't know. It's tough to look at that and really know, you know, what somebody would do, you know, at an AD position that, you know, he's new at that also. You don't have like a history of those kinds of decisions, you know. I feel like in years past, all athletics departments at bigger Power 5 programs, you know, they've looked for ways to give people time for the most part. You hadn't seen a lot of quick trigger firings and stuff. But what's happening is the game and everything, the whole atmosphere around the game of college football is changing so fast and so furious. With, you know, we are in the pay-for-play era. Everybody admits that. You know, the Ohio State athletics director admitting that they're having recruits that are demanding $5,000 just to come visit. I mean, Nick Saban just coming out in a press conference saying, look, you know, we all know what it is. NIL is not really name, image, and likeness. You know, he said it, not us anymore. You know, like, you got to pay them, you got to recruit them with funds, and it's taking lots of money and that sort of thing. And then you have on top of that the transfer portal where players can up and leave as soon as they want to. There's nothing to hold them from doing that. And, you know, it's a give and take. Players can leave, but you can also replace players just like that. You know, and so with all those things said, I do think now more than ever, these programs, these teams and programs have to be able to play the attention game a little bit. You got to be able to get attention, to get people to consider your roster, to get fans to be excited, to be able, to give their own personal money. They pull some money out of their nest egg that they're building, I guess, for retirement, and give it so you can fund your roster. I mean, you got to give them a reason for that. And so it's I don't know how to judge it. I don't know how to judge it. In the past, I would look at it and say, if you are, I would say if you're a first-year coach who took over in an incredibly unfortunate circumstance where the head coach and the previous who ran a particular system died, he passed away. Nobody saw that coming. You can't be ready for that. And so, you're given the job, you break up the offensive staff, make a staff change and philosophy change on one side of the ball. Recruiting maybe on one side of the ball hadn't been that stellar, apparently, for the last 3 years. Some things like that. Normally a guy is definitely going to get time to work through that. A little bit of a grace period there. First-time head coach, all those things. And maybe he still does. I'm just saying there's also the reality that what everybody's going through now in major college sports, no one has ever gone through it before in major college sports. Players can leave. They don't have to stay. Even if you're doing everything right, even if you're paying them, they don't have to stay. In order to get some players, we call it recruiting. They're out here publishing recruiting rankings. Well, that's great. Why? I mean, it's weird because you got to pay them to come. You got to pay players to stay, but there are no contracts. See, so a guy like Deion can go to Colorado and just totally flip the whole roster in 1 year. He did it. 58-something players in 1 year. A place like Utah can get Dodge pickup trucks, brand new ones, for all 85 scholarship players. That's a huge recruiting and sort of retainment benefit for them that other places don't have. And so in order to play that catch-up game and keeping up with the Joneses game, there is the potential that some of these ADs and programs are going to have a quicker trigger than they normally have. I'm not saying that State's going to do that. I'm just saying that's why everybody's, I think, having a hard time figuring out what people are going to do. All right, listen, I appreciate you tuning in today and hanging in there with me. That'll be it for today. I am under the weather and battled through 1 hour, but I'm not going to battle through 2. I'm headed to the doctor. Got to go see what's going on. But I do appreciate it very much, y'all jumping in here with me today for 1 hour. Thanks for all the comments on the Murray West live thread. The text on the Country Pleasing text line. We'll get your phone calls in later in the week. I'm Matt for Beaver, all of us here on the show in the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. See you on the next one. See you.